Hi, I'm Gary Rebholz. With the release of Vegas Pro 21 just around the corner, or maybe even already released by the time you see this video, I'd like to take a few minutes to give you a good look at some of the major new features in this new version. And beyond just showing you the features, I'm hoping that you'll come away with some ideas and some inspiration in how you can use these features in your daily work. I'm also hoping that you'll come away with a piece of our shared vision of where we see Vegas Pro going in terms of AI-based features, in terms of cloud-based features through our Vegas Hub Cloud services, and just everyday features that you'll use to get your job done more effectively and more creatively. So let's head over to the computer and take a look at the new features in Vegas Pro 21. The Z-Depth OFX plugin analyzes your video image, creates a depth map, and divides the image into a background layer and a foreground layer. This opens a world of possibilities. You can use this tool as a custom track compositor or as a normal video effect. Let's take a look. In this project, I have a video track and a text track. You can see that the text overlays the video as you'd expect since it's on the upper track, and you can see that the first clip on the video track crossfades into the second. First, let's use Z-Depth as a track compositing mode and do something a bit magical with the text. I'll access my track compositors for the text track. Don't forget that Vegas Pro, in addition to being an extremely powerful video and audio editing tool, is a surprisingly robust compositing tool, and Z-Depth makes it even more so. I'll choose Custom from the list of compositors, and then choose Z-Depth as my custom compositor. You can instantly see the results in the video preview window. The compositor has identified a foreground layer which contains the birds and a background layer which contains the vegetation. And it's automatically placed the text between those two layers, so that the text is now still in front of the trees, but behind the birds. The furthest and nearest controls essentially enable you to narrow the range between the closest object considered and the furthest. The depth in and depth out controls enable you to move the boundary between background and foreground, which helps you place the text wherever you want it in the depth map. You can invert the effect and add feathering to soften the edges a bit. You can also use the visualization tools to understand the mask that creates the effect. The threshold depth visualization shows the depth map in different shades of color. The deeper the blue, the farther away the object is from the camera lens. In many cases, the default settings do a great job of identifying the foreground objects, but you can also specify them manually. Notice that as I drag the selections in my image, different areas are moved to the background. When you see red areas, these are objects that would normally be on the foreground, but you have excluded. You can make another selection within the red areas to add more pieces to the foreground. The depth and opacity options give you different ways to look at your mask to see exactly what's foreground and what is background. Notice that when I play the project, the birds in both video events sit in front of the text. Since we set Z-Depth as a custom compositor on the track that holds the text, anything we put on that track will be affected by it. And of course, you can do this with elements other than text. For instance, you could place a file that has smoke and an alpha channel behind the birds. Basically, you can put anything back there. For instance, I can place another video clip that doesn't have an alpha channel onto the track that holds the text. This clip now sits behind the birds, but covers the background completely, much like the birds had been shot against a green screen, and the screen replaced by a different video. In other words, green screen effects without the green screen. Let's keep this text composite in place while we experiment further. Notice in my sample footage here, while in both clips the birds are vibrantly colored, the backgrounds seem a bit washed out. We can use Z-Depth to help us solve this problem. First, to make the backgrounds pop a little bit, I can add a brightness and contrast filter to the event. While this enriches the background, we have a couple of problems. First, notice as I toggle the effect off and on that the brightness and contrast also affects the birds along with the background. And second, when I look at the other event, nothing has changed. This one is not affected by the brightness and contrast that I applied to the other event. To solve the second problem, I'd have to apply the brightness and contrast filter to both events individually. And while 2 events isn't too much work, what if I had 100 events? Instead, I could apply the brightness and contrast to the entire track. That might work, unless I had other events on the track that held video that didn't need treatment. Vegas Pro 21 provides a great way to solve this problem, and that's the new adjustment events. I'll insert a new video track at the top of my project, place my cursor within that track above my birds event, and from the Insert menu I'll choose Insert Adjustment Event. An adjustment event is essentially an empty video event, but it has a unique quality to it. It passes any effect that you put onto it down to the video events on every track below it. So I'll add my brightness and contrast filter to the new adjustment event. In the video preview window, you can see that the filter has been passed down to the birds clip beneath the adjustment event. However, if I click past the adjustment event, you see that the effect is not applied. In other words, the effect is only passed down where the adjustment event appears. This is a powerful characteristic of adjustment events, because it means you can bring the filter in and out precisely when you need to. And since adjustment events are similar to regular events, I can split the event into two, move them around, fade them in and out, and so on. So I have complete flexibility to add adjustment events and specify exactly how they affect the tracks below. In this case, I want the brightness and contrast on both the bird events, so I'll delete any extra adjustment event that I created a moment ago, and simply trim the remaining adjustment event so that it spans both of the bird clips on the timeline. Now as I click through the project, you can see that I've applied brightness and contrast to both bird events with a single adjustment event. Since the text event is also under the adjustment event, it is also affected by the filter. I don't want the text affected, so all I need to do is reorder my tracks, which naturally Vegas Pro makes very easy. Now with the text event above the adjustment event, it's no longer affected by the filter. This points out that the adjustment events affect everything beneath them without touching anything above them. With that problem solved, we still have an issue. We're still affecting the birds along with the backgrounds. You can easily see this as I toggle the filter on and off. The solution to this problem brings us back to our discussion of Z-depth. In addition to using Z-depth as a custom compositor, we can also add it as a video effect. That's what we'll do here to limit the brightness and contrast filter to just the background and leave the birds alone. In the video effects window, I'll find Z-depth in my list of OFX plugins and drag one of its presets onto the effects chain for the adjustment event. Immediately we can see the mask that's been created with the black areas representing foreground and the white background layer. We want to limit the effects of Z-depth only to the brightness and contrast filter that comes before it in the effects chain. To do that, I select the Mask Effects checkbox. Notice that the brightness and contrast filter now affects just the birds, the exact opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. So I'll select the Invert checkbox. Now the background pops to life while the birds remain unaffected, as you can see as I toggle brightness and contrast on and off. And when I click in the other event and toggle the effect, you can see that we've already fixed this one too, thanks to the adjustment event, which spans both timeline clip events. Of course, you can use any effect along with Z-depth like this. For instance, color grading effects, blurs to create depth of field effects, and more. You can really get creative. Now that we've explored the two uses of Z-depth, let's take a look at another use for adjustment events. You can use adjustment events for very creative effects. For instance, let's create a custom transition that's powered by adjustment events. Recall that the two video events crossfade with each other. Instead of putting a stock transition into place, I'll add a new video track. Then I'll insert an adjustment event onto that track. For now, I'll place the event over a non-transition area so it's easier to see the results of the effects I'll add to it. I'll also trim it down to about half the default length so that it matches the crossfade length a bit better. The transition effect I want to create involves moving and blurring the image. So first, I'll add the Offset and Wrap OFX plugin. This plugin is new for Vegas Pro 21 and enables you to offset the video within your timeline clip event. When you add keyframes to automate the settings, you can create motion. Notice a position control handle appears in the video preview window. This point defines the true center of the video image. As I drag it around, the edges of the video image that disappear off of one edge wrap around to reappear on the other edge. In this case, I'll work by the numbers. First, I'll set the position back to 0, so the image starts in its normal position. Then I'll click the end of the keyframe timeline, and here I'll set the horizontal value to 1.0. and leave the vertical set at 0.0. You can see in the keyframe area that this creates an animation ramp. Now, when I play through the clip, you can see that it slides off the right edge of the video screen and wraps back around on the left edge. While this might make an interesting transition on its own, you can really sell it with another effect. From the video effects window, I'll find the linear blur plugin and drag the default plugin onto my effects chain after the offset and wrap plugin. I want to change the amount of the blur over time, so I click the animate button for the amount setting. At the beginning of the event, I want no blur, so I leave the settings as they are. When we're halfway through the event, I want the maximum amount of blur, so I place my cursor halfway through the keyframe timeline and add a keyframe. Then I'll raise the amount slider to 1.0. I also want a keyframe at the end with no blur, so I'll navigate to the end and add a keyframe there. Now you can see the animation map as it ramps up from no blur to maximum blur and back to no blur. When I play through the clip, you see the results. Now I'll move the event so that it spans the crossfade area. Because this adjustment event sits on the top of the track, the effects I just created will affect all of the tracks below it. When I play the project, you see the two birds begin to move and blur, you see the colors shifting in the blurred image, and finally you see, as the blur subsides, the single bird is moving into place. We now have a catchy custom transition between the two clips. Next, let's look at another new AI feature. With Vegas Pro 21, we bring smart masking out of beta, complete with tracking. Smart masking enables me to pick the specific objects in an image or video that I want to build a mask around, and then automatically builds the mask for me. And, in video files, I can track the object and create a series of masks that follow the motion of the object. In this scene, let's mask the woman out with smart masking and create a different effect. From the video effects window, I'll add the smart mask plugin to the clip. First, we'll need to analyze the video, so I click the Analyze button. The smart mask plugin identifies objects that the AI recognizes and puts rectangles around the objects it finds in the video preview window. I'll select the Show Labels checkbox, and I can then see what the AI has identified the objects it found as. We can see that it found a person with a 99% confidence. I can adjust the confidence slider to identify more or fewer objects based on the confidence value. Double-click the slider to set it back to its default of 80%. Now I can specify which object or objects I want to create a mask for. When I click the woman, a mask estimate appears in blue around her. Now I want to track the woman as she walks across the screen. The redetection rate slider specifies how often a frame will be analyzed. By default, the tool analyzes about 3 times per second. The tool then uses optical flow technology to estimate the mask on the frames between. I want the highest accuracy, so I'll set the redetection rate slider to 1 so it analyzes every frame and doesn't have to estimate in between frames. Now to track the woman's movement, I click the Start Tracking button. After a few moments, tracking is complete. You can see the keyframes in the animation timeline that have been created to track her movement. If I had not analyzed every frame, I can step through the video to check the mask at each frame. If I'm not happy with the mask accuracy, I can click the Correct Mask button. I can continue to do this for all frames if I like. Since I analyzed every frame, the Correct Mask button isn't available. I've already got my best results. Now that we've tracked her, I click the Create Mask button. This adds a Bezier mask plugin to my chain of effects, and you can see in the video preview window that everything outside of the mask is removed from the scene. In this case, I want everything to appear, but I want to put a special treatment on the woman. From the video effects window, I choose Style Transfer from the list of plugins. This is another AI-powered feature that applies the style of famous paintings or other patterns to my image. I'll drag the Pointillism preset to the effects chain and drop it before the Bezier mask filter. Now the woman has the treatment I want, but I still need the rest of the video back, so I select the Bezier mask button in the effects chain. Under the general options, I select the Mask Effects checkbox. This transforms the mask to showing just the effects in the chain. And now the train looks normal, but the woman is stylized. Next, we've worked closely with the people at Boris Effects to tightly integrate the Academy Award-winning Boris Mocha motion tracking tool into Vegas Pro. We've created a new OFX plugin called Mocha VEGAS to do this. The integration is tight and nearly seamless. Let's take a look at how it works. In this clip, we have a trio of motorcycle riders cruising down the highway. Let's say we need to obscure the face of one of the riders. We can use Mocha VEGAS for the tracking and other Vegas tools to complete the effect. From the Video Effects window, I add the Mocha VEGAS plugin to the event on my timeline. From here, I click the Launch Mocha UI button and the application opens. Once inside Mocha, you can see that my motorcycle riders clip is already loaded. I'll use the Create X-Spline Layer tool to create a quick mask around the rider's face. Of course, you can use all of the sophisticated tools inside Mocha to accomplish what you need, but this is good enough for my demonstration. Now I click the Track Forward button. Mocha performs its tracking magic, and after a few moments, it's finished. I'll rename the tracking layer so I can identify it more easily later. Now I save the Mocha project and close Mocha. This puts me immediately back into Vegas Pro. Under the Tracking Data section, notice that no tracking data exists. I click the Create Track button, and with a layer I created back in Mocha selected, I click OK, and now the tracking data is in my Vegas Pro project. From here, I have a couple of options. If I want to transfer the tracking data to the Vegas Pro Motion Tracker tool, I click the Apply Export button. Instead, I'll just let the Mocha VEGAS plugin create my mask, so I click the Create Mask button. This adds a Bezier mask plugin to the effects chain, and you can see that the rider's face is now masked out. Next, I add the Pixelate plugin to the chain before the Bezier mask plugin, and raise the pixelation values to the levels I want. Finally, I click the Bezier masking plugin, and under the General Options section, I select the Mask Effects checkbox to show the entire video with the pixelization limited to the mask over the rider's face. I'll close the Video Event Effects window and play my project. Notice that the pixelation follows the rider's face throughout the entire scene. Now let's take a look at a few of the new features in the Vegas Hub Cloud Services area. The Vegas Hub window is your portal to most of the cloud services powered features. The Vegas Hub backend has been completely rewritten and is more secure, faster, and more robust. Vegas content has also been improved with better search capabilities, clearer organization, the ability to tag media files as favorites, and other improvements. There are two big additions that I want to talk about specifically. First, we've moved the text-to-speech tools out of the main application and now host them in the cloud. This vastly increases the features of the tool. I'll open the text-to-speech tool from the Tools menu. In the text-to-speech dialog, I'll enter or paste the text I want to create audio for. Click in the Voices box. In this next screen, you can choose the language you want to generate your text in. I'll click the Languages drop-down, and you can see that there are dozens more languages available now. For now, I'll choose United States English. From the gender list, I'll choose all genders. Notice the long list of voices I can choose from. This list has also greatly expanded now that the tool is cloud-hosted. I'll click the Filter Voices button and select both High Quality Only and select Voices with Styles. This filters my voice options down. I'll choose the Nancy voice for my narration. In the Speech Styles list, I can give Nancy some character. Let's see what excited Nancy sounds like. When I click the Generate Speech button, the audio is created and plays back.
Here is the text I want.
How does she sound in a whispering delivery?
Here is the text I want.
You can continue to experiment with different voices and styles to find the perfect one. You can also translate to a different language. An advanced feature that's also new this version is the ability to edit the audio with SSML, a speech markup language. I'll click the SSML button to view my text in markup mode. Here I can perform surgery on my audio and do all kinds of things like changing the inflection of a single word, changing the voice style mid-sentence, and so much more. For now, I won't make any changes, rather regenerate my audio. Now I can easily add it to my project either to my media pool or directly to my timeline. Once I insert it onto my timeline, the tool creates a new track and places the audio in an event on that track. Finally, let's take a look at the new Quick Upload feature. This feature enables the user to upload files from virtually any connected device to their Vegas Hub Cloud Storage location. In the Hub Explorer window, select one of your file drop sessions. File drop was introduced in Vegas Pro 20, and now we've enhanced the feature with Quick Upload. Click the Upload File to Cloud button for your chosen file drop session. Once Vegas Pro connects to the cloud, an upload window appears. You can drag files from your Windows Explorer folders into the target area to add them to the upload queue, or click the selector button and browse to the files you want to upload. But notice the QR code on the screen. Point your device's camera at that QR code. After a moment, you'll get a link on your device. Tap that link and the Upload dialog box opens. If you've shot my example QR code, you'll find that the Quick Upload session has expired. But on your own Quick Upload session, tap the selector button and navigate to a media file on your device and add it to the upload queue. When you have the files in your queue, tap or click the Upload Files button. When the upload completes, close the Upload dialog box in Vegas Pro. After a few moments, the files you uploaded appear in your file drop collection. Right-click a file and choose Sync. When Sync completes, drag the file to your project timeline. It's now that easy to move files from your device into your Vegas Pro timeline. I hope this walkthrough has helped you understand the main new features in Vegas Pro 21 and has shown you that there's a lot to be excited about. Vegas Pro 21 opens up new creative possibilities and makes it easier to access the files you need. Thank you for joining me. Visit VegasCreativeSoftware.com for more information.